Welcome back. So, Russia, Sweden. What a game. I gotta make sure when I get the thumbnail for this, it's not a spoiler. Because let's be honest, this was a great game. And if anybody was recording it in Europe, I'd hate to have it spoiled. I've been worried about spoilers with the ones that's obvious who's going to win them. But as we get into the medal rounds, I will do my best. So, this is the 12th straight. Coming into tonight, there were 11 straight games that have been settled by one goal between these two countries. 7 of them had gone to overtime. Now make that 8 out of 12. These countries are very, very well matched, and I think that's clear from tonight's game as well. Now, why am I wearing a Minnesota hat? Because their prospect had a pretty good game tonight. So, they start off with the webcams again, and kudos to the sleepy Sweden guy who looked like he was just getting up, and it's like, I don't know, around 3 a.m. their time when this game started. So, man, kudos to him and to all of the Swedes on camera. Then there's a Russian goal 37 seconds in. So, Swedish guy gets up and probably not happy with that. And it was waved off for goalie interference. So initially it looked like it was a good goal. And on replays, you could tell that Podkolzin got his stick in there and definitely interfered with Wallstedt. Not a penalty, but you can't allow that goal. So the review confirmed that, but the Russians were ahead in the shots 4-0 2.5 minutes into this, and they're trying to end that 54-game winning streak during the round-robin part of the tournament for Sweden. So the Swedes pushed back at around the 4-minute mark, playing very well in this game. Afanaseyev then had a chance. Strong tournament for Afanaseyev overall for the Russians. The shots were 8-2 for the Russians 7 minutes in. It's scoreless till 7:28 when Afanaseyev scores from Abramov and Griciak. So whenever I want a goal to happen in a game, all I have to do is write down the shot totals at a certain point, and then there's a goal right after. Or I'll write like lots of pressure, and as I'm writing lots of pressure, a goal goes in. So Afanaseyev makes it 1-0 for the Russians. And the goal was on a defensive miscue. And it just looked like Sweden wasn't prepared, and the Russians were. The Russians came out in this game playing fantastic hockey, and the Swedes were caught flat-footed. Holtz then takes a penalty. Russia gets their first power play. Wallstedt denied Podkolzin, who looked really good tonight. So this is 2 good games in a row for Podkolzin. However, there's a tying goal. Kostmar scores from Gunler and Holmstrom at 14:33. And something they showed, and I didn't write it on the board because I knew I'd remember, both Kostmar and Podkolzin are Canuck draft picks, and they showed them tangled up with each other. And Kostmar, I have to say, he's a talented kid. He's got a decent shot. He gets the goal there. If he plays in the NHL, he's going to be one of those agitators. And just watching him play, I was like, oh, he's a Tikkanen. Reminded me a lot of Esa Tikkanen the way he was playing. So we'll see whether or not that's something that he does night in and night out. But tonight he was doing his best to agitate the Russians. Make sure you know where the referee is and hold the other guy's stick. And then you let go. And then you draw a penalty. Sweden gets power play. Askarov looked kind of shaky in that first period. There were a couple of moments. When he comes out of the net, it can be a bit of an adventure. I know he's a good good puck handler, but there's been times in this tournament where it's been kind of a misadventure. Johansson was hurt, got penalized for interference on Podkolzin, and Gunler ends up serving the penalty because Johansson's on the bench, getting tended to. The Russians score on the power play. It's Amirov from Podkolzin and Kuznetsdinov. At least I remembered how to write it on the board. At 19:14. So going into the first intermission, the Russians are up 1-0. 2-1, I should say. After being up 1-0, 1-1 tie, then they're up 2-1. Very good game, back and forth. Second period, first minute chance for the Swedes, who I thought were the better team in the second half of that first period. I thought the Russians were kind of fortunate they got that lead back. Podkolzin had a chance the other way right after that. And then they showed the sleepy Sweden guy, and he was on the couch laying down. I'm like, come on, dude, stay awake. Come on, you can do it. You can do it, sleepy guy. Game was getting kind of chippy. Kuznetsdinov then had a spear to Holtz's sensitive area, and it wasn't called. And it was that's Kuznetsov's spear definitely. You don't want to be doing that. But Holtz was okay. Chistikov then was hit in the face with a stick on a follow through, so I don't know if that evens things out. There's a 3-on-1, but Abramov decided to pass it when he should have shot it. So it's one of those situations where he's in close. He decides, I think I'll pass it to my teammate. He should have taken the shot. He had a better chance. So they get away with one there. Groshev then had a chance on a break that was denied. Kniazev then takes a penalty. Sweden gets their second power play. And during that, Askarov denied Kosmar. Kosmar was going for his second goal of the game. Holtz then hit the post as the power play was pressuring. The Russians then ended up back in the box, giving a third power play to the Swedes. Don't want to keep doing that. We end up with a tie. Holtz scores from Andre and Johansson at 15:59. So, very, very good period of hockey for the Swedes. They were the much better team in that second period. It's not close. The Russians were on their heels most of that period. Amirov then gets a goalie interference penalty right after that. The Swedes go back to the power play. Fantastic period for the Swedes. And just one of those situations where Amirov's got to watch that. But, you know, if you look at the replay, you'll be like, well, he gets pushed in there by the Swedish defenseman. Then the counter argument is that he didn't try to get out of the way and you got to change your angle. And yeah, it's one of those things. The goalie interference is always going to be one of those controversial penalties. Russia got away with the puck over the glass during the penalty kill. Swedes all saw it. The replay showed it was not deflected over the glass, but the officials couldn't agree. And so since the penalty wasn't called initially, there you go. Kosmar then got decked, and Abramov takes a penalty in the closing seconds. So I mentioned how Kosmar gets tangled up with Podkolzin and kind of ticked him off. He ticked off Abramov, and Abramov didn't take it and took a swing at him. And when they saw the replay on this, the Swedes wanted Abramov thrown out of the game. And again, if you look at the replay, did the stick catch him in the face? It kind of looked like it did. Kind of looked like he brought the stick down over the guy's head. This was a really chippy game between two teams that I don't think like each other. I'm just looking down because there's something I'm going to pick up, but my foot keeps touching it. I'm like, I really got to make sure that I don't take any ink off of that. I'm going to have a great sadness. Third period, strong power play started things because that Abramov penalty was in the closing seconds. So the Swedes start with the power play. Askarov was saving it. So Askarov really, in my eyes, earned his keep in that third period and second period as well. Both goalies were actually pretty sharp in the early minutes. Broberg had a chance that was a near miss. And then, so was it the same guy? Because then it looked like when they went back to the Swedish guys that maybe he was caught picking his nose. Was it him? Because he wasn't on the couch here. So since he wasn't on the couch here, did they switch people? Because it looked like he got caught. And we'll come back to the webcam thing. Because the webcam thing is really interesting with the Swedish guy. Now, there were Russians that were showing too. There's nothing interesting going on. They didn't have... And it's upper left corner, the second guy from the left. Now, Lars, I assume everybody in Sweden knows each other like we do here in Canada. So just tell the guy, hey, couch guy. A, be awake, and B, remember you're on camera. So, no judgments here, none. So the Swedes are still the better team, but Amirov drew a penalty on Holtz. And then it's a power play marker, so Kirsanov ends up making him pay. Makes it 3-2 for the Russians. Kniazev and Amirov with the assists at 9:46. So Amirov drops the penalty, and then he ends up with an assist on the goal right after. Kosmar has a chance that was stopped. Excellent game for this guy. He's a 7th rounder. Excellent game. Sweden needed another push. Wallstead passed it to the Russians then. Probably not a great idea. It did not end up in their net, but it caused some excitement in the Swedish end. We'll put it that way. And then a post for Kosmar on a dangerous chance for Sweden. So, with 2 minutes left, the Swedes pull their goaltender, and they end up tying it with 1 minute left exactly. It's Gunler scoring from Holtz and Soderstrom. And then they showed the Swedes celebrating. Completely different household. So Couch Guy is gone. F in the chat for Couch Guy. I felt bad. Because now we're going to overtime. So what happens with overtime? Well, people who watch during the playoffs know, hey, Shannon ran out of board, didn't he? Yep. So we go to overtime. You knew it was going to happen. So here we go. 5 minute overtime, 5 minutes 3-on-3. Russia wins the face-off. Kuznetsov had a chance that was turned aside. Abramov then had a chance that was deflected out by Broberg. Might have ended up in the net if Broberg doesn't deflect it. Soderblom then had a chance that nearly ended it. That Soderblom kid is an absolute beast. That kid, he's 6'8", so you got to figure on skates he's what, 7'9" or something. Like, it's just, as I've always said with Chara, he's bigger than a human. So he gets his chance, and then Raymond's line pinned down the Russians. So the Russians got kind of tired, a little bit sloppy. The Swedes make them pay for it. But then on the next shift, Kuznetsov and Podkolzin had a really good shift. So it's kind of a back and forth here. And of course, because it's 3-on-3 overtime, it's all about puck possession. It is so much about puck possession in the 3-on-3s. Penalty to the Swedes with 24.9 seconds left. It is Kosmar taking the penalty. So the Russians take a timeout, and Kosmar's on this board a lot, almost as much as Stutzla was for the Germans. This kid's got a pretty bright future, I think. But again, he takes the penalty here. It's in overtime, so it's a 4-on-3. And the Russians come out of that timeout, and they make him pay. It's Kuznetsov scores the power play marker from Amirov and Chistnikov at 4:54. So there you go. Kuznetsov, he's the hero. And when they did the players of the game, of course, that means Amirov gets the player of the game for the Russians, which I'm okay with. I am fine with that, because Amirov was very, very visible throughout this game. And they gave Soderblom the player of the game for Sweden, which, okay, but he didn't have any points, so I thought that was odd. I thought Kosmar would have been a good pick, although Kosmar's in the penalty box on that last play. Gunler might have been a good pick. Holtz would have been a good pick. I thought Holtz's his deflection from behind the net, that goal, was interesting because it was just after he had missed a really easy shot in front of the net. So there you go. Askarov ends up with 33 saves on 36 shots. Wallstead, 30 saves on 34 shots. This is the first loss in about 15 years for the Swedes. Their last loss was December 31st of 2006, 5,113 days ago. And that was their last loss in round robin. So the 54-game winning streak is over for the Swedes. And Gord Miller immediately says this might be the best thing for Sweden. This might be the best thing for them to have a setback, okay, in the round robin. And then, going into the medal round, there's a little more pressure. And maybe not being the number one seed going into the medal round, maybe that'll be better for them. And I agree. Maybe it'll be better. The Swedes were the better team through a large portion of this game. It was the penalty killing that let them down. First Kirsanov here, and then Kuznetsov here. And that ends up being what brings the Russians to victory, which is odd since in a tournament where power plays have been lethal, the Russians have been kind of inept on their power play up until this game. It comes alive here. And again, Podkolzin had a very good game, so if you looked at their last game and said, well, it's not really against anybody, okay, this one was. And he still looked pretty good. So these teams may meet each other again at some point going forward, but obviously not in the quarterfinals as we do the whole cross-pollination thing. And it's going to be very interesting because with Russia winning this in overtime, they only get 2 points. Sweden losing in overtime, they get 1 point. So tomorrow, the Swedes and the Americans are playing for first place, and there's the possibility that Russia ends up second. They can't, I'm thinking about it, they can't end up third, but they can end up second. So they're first or second. But again, if the Sweden-US game goes to overtime tomorrow, and it could, we'll see. But I will be covering that game. Of course, I'll be covering Canada-Finland as well. I'll be doing full reviews for those. Those games should be great. And this game, this was the best game of the tournament. So, with all apologies to what the Swiss and the Germans did earlier, this felt like a gold medal game. It felt really important, and this was a really fun game to watch. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and yep, the little board makes its debut for the World Juniors. I don't think I'll need that for the regular season in the NHL. I don't tend to take these kinds of notes for regular season in the NHL, but we'll see. Thank you guys so much for all your support, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And Couch Guy, if you're watching this, kudos for trying to stay awake. Stay in the room. Be on the couch. Be at least on the couch. It's just, anyways. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon. It may not even have been the same guy. Maybe 4 different guys, just similar room. I don't. Anyways, was I the only one watching that guy? Let me know. Thank you guys for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.